Okay, so today in our Body Alchemy Learning Circle, we will be looking at the nervous system. And specifically, we are going to look at the Polyvagal Theory. And then you will get a chance to map your nervous system with a set of practical exercises. And this is going to be a very useful session to get to know yourself and your autonomic responses and how this affects your life. But I do want to say that this is just a beginning of understanding your nervous system and befriending it. So it can be quite complex, and I started learning about it a couple of years ago, and I'm still learning new things because it's something that we learn through living, like through being aware and through paying attention to what's happening within our body. So this is just an invitation to be curious about this topic and begin your journey of understanding your nervous system. So let's have a look at the agenda. So first, we are going to look at the polyvagal theory. We're going to discuss the three pathways of response as per Stephen Porges, Dr. Stephen Porges, who developed this polyvagal theory, which I will talk about more in a moment. And then after that, we will look at creating a personal profile map so you can start recognizing your autonomic states. And then we will also have a look at creating a regulating resources map, which you can refer to afterwards in your daily life. And these exercises that we will do here today is something that you can keep going back to, and you can keep adding things, because obviously here today here in this session you might only be able to connect with only so much. But as you move through your days, in the next few days, you might start recognizing some things, and then you can go back to the personal profile map as well as the regulating resources map. And we will also just explore how to use the polyvagal theory in daily life. But as I already said, it's something that takes quite a bit of time, because we have to learn about our nervous system, and we have to start recognizing our patterns and of our autonomic responses. So at the end of the session, I'm going to mention a possibility to do a 7-day journey towards befriending your nervous system. So this will be another way to explore your autonomic responses, and also how you relate to them, and how you can reshape your nervous system and start restoring your life as well, because we can sometimes end up in certain stories that maybe don't no longer make sense, and there is a way for us to learn about where certain autonomic responses come from, and how we can start reshaping that. And I will talk about that at the very end. Okay, so this is our agenda. First, I will, before we dive into the polyvagal theory, I just want to tell you a few words about myself. So I'm Anna, and I'm originally from Poland, and I have been living in Ireland for almost 19 years, since 2005. So I'm a yoga teacher, educator, coach, and facilitator, and my focus is on mind-body connection, and also healing from within. So I truly believe that if we develop more awareness of what's happening within, we can really impact our well-being on all the different levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And I work a lot with women, and I do that through embodied yoga, hormone yoga, also yin yoga. This is a new addition to my work, and all of my work is trauma informed. And I also use the menstrual cycle awareness while supporting women, as well as the nervous system regulation, and I'm currently in training as a compassionate inquiry practitioner. So the compassionate inquiry training, professional training, is based on the teachings of Dr. Gabor Mate, who specializes in childhood development, trauma, and mind-body connection. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. All of my work is really informed by what we are going to explore here today. And also on a personal level, I love nature, so I love to be out and about, and I've always been seeking a connection to my true essence, and I've done it through many different things: Buddhism, yoga, art, dance, movement. So I'm constantly looking for different things, because I'm also very, very curious. So I've been on journey for as long as I can remember, really. So yeah, that's about me. So next we are going to move into the polyvagal theory. So I would like to make it as simple as possible, and we are not here to learn the science. I mean, we are here to learn a little bit of the science, but it's not about obtaining more knowledge, but about learning something that is going to be useful for you, for your life. So it's meant to be practical. So whatever I share, I will share because I feel that it's relevant and it can help us understand our body, how our body works, and how there is that strong connection between our mind and the body. So hopefully it's going to be easy for you to understand. But as always, you can ask questions if there are any questions that arise. So the polyvagal theory was introduced in 1994 by Stephen Porges, and the polyvagal theory, the difference between this theory and previous theories is that Dr. Stephen Porges, he discovered that in contrast to what was previously believed, that the autonomic nervous system has two branches, which is the sympathetic and parasympathetic. And you might know them as fight or flight, the sympathetic being the fight or flight, or the parasympathetic being the rest and digest. But he discovered that the parasympathetic branch actually has two sub-branches, which is the dorsal vagus and the ventral vagus. And they're part of the same branch of the parasympathetic nervous system. So the dorsal vagus, we call it the freeze, and then the ventral vagus is our well-known rest and digest. And I will talk about them in more detail in a moment. But first, I wanted just to maybe explain very briefly what is the nervous system, because sometimes we talk about the nervous system, but actually we might not really know what is the function of it. And it's a very important system in our body. So the nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, and a complex network of nerves. And it's our communication system in the body. So it sends messages back and forth between the brain and the body. And the brain is what controls all the body's functions. And we have central nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Today, we are going to talk about the autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for involuntary functions in the body. So the involuntary functions are all the functions that you don't have to think about, and stuff is still happening in your body. So like breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion. So all the things that are just happening and you don't have to worry about them. So you go to sleep, you don't have to worry. You will still be breathing and your heart will be beating. And the name polyvagal theory comes from the name of the name of a specific nerve, a cranial nerve that is the longest nerve in our body. It's called the vagus nerve, and it's actually a pair of nerves that emerge from the top of the brainstem, and after leaving the skull, enter the upper neck area behind the ears. And then it passes down through the neck to the throat and vocal cords, also to the heart, lungs, stomach, liver, kidney, gallbladder, pancreas, and then finally to the small intestine and part of the large intestine. So as this nerve, the vagus nerve, travels through the body, it regulates so many functions in our body: swallowing, vocalization, breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, immune responses, and also the microbiome of our intestines. So it's really responsible for a lot of things in our body. So you will also notice that depending on where we are or which nervous state we are in, our voice will change. For example, our heart rate will change, the way we breathe will change, our blood pressure will change. So that's why the nervous system is so important, because it affects so many functions in our body. And digestion. So, for example, when you are stressed, maybe it affects your digestion and many other things. So it's really, really important. The nervous system is connected through so many other systems that if there is something out of balance, it will manifest in our physical body in how it functions. So yeah, that's what it does. It's really, really important. And just on the vagus nerve, a little bit more on the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve provides a direct link between the body and the brain through a two-way communication system. And 80% of the neural signals go from the body to the brain to tell the brain what is going on inside the body. And then 20% go from the brain to the body to regulate the organs, blood flow, and muscles. So it's quite a lot coming from the body to the brain and not the other way around. And that's why sometimes when we are having a difficult time or there is something happening in our body on the physical level or maybe on a mental level, sometimes we are trying to solve it with the mind, but actually there's so much that is happening in the body that sometimes it's really necessary. I mean, I would say that always it's necessary for us to look inside the body, and there is a lot of information there, and it's really connected to our nervous system. And our nervous system is continuously receiving and sending signals and it picks them up from inside our body and and outside the body, so our environment, and also between people. So we can actually pick up on the energy of another person's nervous system. So it will be like an antenna running the length of the body that is always on and is listening for signals that indicate danger or safety. So the nervous system is all about keeping us safe. That's the function of the nervous system. And the vagus nerve, working in conjunction with the autonomic nervous system, initiates our response to these fight or flight signals. So if there is any threat, like your life is under threat or you sense danger, it's going to trigger the fight or flight response. And then we can go into different responses. So we have different responses. Our nervous system will either go into a protective withdrawal. So we will withdraw as a way to protect ourselves, or sometimes the fight or flight response. So we will want to either fight or flight, and we'll talk about each of the states in a moment in more detail. But there are different ways that we can respond to danger or threat. Okay, so this is just to give you a little bit of foundation about what is the function of the nervous system before we look at each of the branches and each of the pathways of response individually. And before we do that, I just wanted to read out this quote from Dr. Deb Dana. And Dr. Deb Dana, she has done a lot of work with polyvagal theory, and her work is about making Stephen Porges' work more practical, that it can be used in therapy and we as individuals can use it in daily life, because Dr. Stephen Porges, his work was quite well, he did a lot of research, and I think it was not really practical, just a lot of information, useful information, but she's done a lot of work to make it more practical, and basically something that isn't just information, but something that we can apply in daily life. And this is a quote from her. So the polyvagal theory is the science of feeling safe enough to fall in love with life and take the risks of living. And I think it's really beautiful, because really it's all about finding safety in our body. So all the responses that we are going to explore here, the ones that maybe are not so nourishing for us, they are there to keep us safe. However, sometimes they had a function in the past, but maybe they don't need to protect us anymore, and they instead, if they do that, they can cause us more suffering. So essentially what we are here to do is to learn about our body, learn how our nervous system is trying to keep us safe, and then also see if these responses that are there to protect us are of use or of service to us anymore. And that's what she's talking about here. So when we feel safe enough, we can just, feel good to live the life that we want, take risks, and develop connection with other people around us. So yeah, that's just something that she says, and I think it's very relevant here. Okay, so we're gonna move into looking at the three pathways of response. I am going to go through them one by one. And then after that, we are going to have our exercise to create a personal profile map. So for now, what I wanted to invite you to is, as I am going through each of the nervous states, just see if you can relate to them, and see if you can think of a situation or an instance where you were in that state, but try not to maybe make too much effort. Just see if you can connect with the state that I'm describing, and if something pops into your mind, just be aware of that, and then we will explore it a little bit further in a few moments. So see if you can really notice, as well as I'm describing them, if you can really relate to them in your body, what they would be like, what they would feel like in your body. And if it doesn't happen for you as well, that's fine. We are just here to explore. And some of these states might be more familiar to us than others. Okay, so before I start going through them, I also want to just mention that we need each of these states. So we need the freeze, we need the fight or flight, we need the rest and digest. And they are not a problem in itself. So it's not a problem to be in freeze, because it will save our life in some situations. Same with the fight or flight. The problem or the challenge is when we are stuck in one of them for a longer period of time, and we cannot get unstuck, and maybe it's really controlling our life or how we live our life, and it's causing a lot of pain and suffering. So all of these states have their function, and they are there to keep us safe. And that's something really important to mention, because we are not saying that they are bad. None of them are bad. But when we are stuck in them, they can really take over our lives. So also want to mention that these responses, these autonomic responses, they are part of who we are as mammals, human beings, and they're there to protect us. But some of them are actually not a response to a threat or danger. And they were created during our early experiences. So often they were created, formed during our childhood, and that's why it's so difficult to unlearn them. So, yeah, just to mention that, because I think it's really, really important to be aware of that, that our nervous system is there to keep us safe, and we are just looking at what these states look like when they are out of balance or when they are not doing what they are supposed to be doing. Okay, so let's have a look. Before we look at the first one, I want to bring your attention as well to the hierarchy. So in the polyvagal theory, we have a hierarchy. What that means is that these pathways of response, they have a certain hierarchy, and it starts at the freeze, then fight or flight, and rest and digest. And that is in our evolution. So the oldest pathway is the freeze, and the newest is rest and digest. That's how we developed our nervous system. But also the hierarchy applies to how we are moving through the nervous states. So for us, in order for us to come out of freeze, we need to move through fight or flight. We cannot move from freeze to rest and digest. We cannot jump ahead. That's just the nature of our nervous system. So there is that hierarchy that is quite interesting to be aware of. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom. So we'll talk about freeze. So the freeze pathway of response is 500 million years old. And this is where we have no energy to care about what seems too much or is not working. We just have no energy to care. And in a normal setting, the freeze you could imagine the freeze in animals that are scared and are hiding not to be seen by the predator. So there is a life-threatening situation, for example, reptiles like a lizard. I remember my situation with lizards in India, and the lizard just freezes. And this is their way to protect themselves, because they're pretending they're dead so they won't be seen. Obviously, I could see the lizard, but if they're in nature, other predators maybe cannot spot them. So this is a way for us to protect ourselves. So in nature, it would be an example like I just given you. And what happens in our body in the freeze pathway of response is that it affects our organs from the diaphragm below. So, for example, it could affect our digestion, and it can cause irritable bowel syndrome, for example. So it will be really connected to our digestion. What else it does? It decreases the heart rate, temperature. It also decreases our eye contact, so we will not seek eye contact. We'll probably look down. Also, our social behavior will change. Probably we don't want to engage as much with others. There will be this sense of feeling as if we are not existing. So we are there, but we are not actually there. And this is our last resort when everything else fails. So we will move into freeze when we feel a sense of hopelessness. So it moves us into this immobilized state. And how it can show up in our lives is it can show up as suppressed feelings and emotions. And this is a way for us to protect ourselves from maybe others criticizing us, or maybe we know that our emotions and feelings are not welcome, and we are going to keep them to ourselves, and we enter into this freeze state because we are protecting ourselves. We don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to be hurt by others. And why we would do that is because we probably have an experience of that in the past. So we are basing it on an earlier experience. and we do it unconsciously. But our body is remembers that this is not safe to do. So this is also when we will feel trapped, and we have this feeling that action doesn't work. So we will go there when we are like, oh, this doesn't make sense. So I'm just going to shut down. And the shutdown is on many different levels, physical, but also the emotions. And we will also have less energy. And people who experience depression, that's also a form of the freeze response. Okay, so this is our freeze. Then moving up from freeze to fight or flight, this one is a little bit newer pathway of response. So it's 400 million years old. So in nature, you could think of it as an animal running away. Think about running away from a lion. You know that the lion is stronger than you, and then if you don't run, it's going to eat you. So there is danger, and we have this fight or flight response to keep us safe. So there is danger, and we want to run away. Or if we feel that we can fight with them, we will fight. That's why it's called fight or flight. So there's two options there. We either fight or we flight. So when that happens, what happens in our body is that some of our organs don't get blood, so we can run. So all the blood is going to be sent to our muscles, so we can run or fight. And the fight or flight is something very common in our society at the moment, because we do a lot of things, and we have the tendency to maybe overwork as well. And there's so many expectations, how we should live, and so on. So there is this sense of being mobilized all the time. We are like ready to go all the time. And this is a good thing to have, but the problem is that we are constantly in this mode of doing, and it can really affect how we feel mentally. So it can feel quite overwhelming at times due to all that pressure that's on you. Because obviously, imagine running away from a lion. You don't want to be in that situation every single day, and that we can have that feeling. Our body can have that feeling every day if we are experiencing a lot of stress or a lot of pressure, external pressure, or it could be sometimes pressure that we put on ourselves. And then also on the physical level, because the blood is sent to our muscles, it's going to decrease the blood flow into the organs in our body, which means that sometimes it can manifest as a physical disease or a physical imbalance or dysfunction. Or for women, I work with menstrual cycle, it will affect their menstrual cycle as well. So it really will have an impact on how our body functions and all the organs. And then also on the physical level, what happens when we're in fight or flight, it increases our heart rate, the adrenaline is released, and also what decreases, on the other hand, is digestion, rational thinking, and yeah, so it's a very active state, and we can have this sense of being overstimulated, and it can result as well in being very self-critical and worrying a lot, anxiety, because there is that sense of urgency all the time, overexcited, overwhelmed. So yeah, a lot of energy. It can feel quite chaotic as well. So that's the sympathetic energy, the fight or flight. And then we'll move to the last one, which is the ventral pathway of response, the rest and digest. And this one is the newest, and it's 200 million years old. So this is something that's present in all mammals. And in this state, we feel safe, we feel connected, there is space to think, there is a sense of that we can trust ourselves and others. There's a level of understanding for ourselves, others, the world. We are creative, inspired, nourished, and recharged. So there is that sense of also feeling supported, and in our body we feel a healthy heart rate, blood pressure, good digestion, and sleep. So it's a really nourishing, nice place to be in when you are not really, worried about, you know, what you have to do. It doesn't mean that you are not engaged in life, but there is that sense of connection with yourself in the present moment. So it's very much about the present moment as well. Um, and we also can have fun. So it's much easier to engage in playful activities. So it's a very nice state to be in. And also when we are with others that feel nourishing for us, this is when we are in the rest and digest, because this is a system of connection. So we need all of these systems, all of these pathways and responses. And the best thing is if we can move between them easily and we don't get stuck in one of them. And also, when we are supported by co-regulating relationships, we have the opportunity to become more resilient. And this is really good for our nervous system as well, because we are wired for connection. So having these supportive relationships is something that really can help us to regulate our nervous system and feel more safety in the body. Okay, so I hope that you had some time to really connect with what I've been sharing. Um, I'm going to now invite you for the exercise, and this is where you're going to need some paper and pens and maybe some colors. So we're going to take a few minutes. And we are going to look at this personal profile map. What you can do on the piece of paper, you can just draw whatever I have here, like 3 lines or 2 lines, to divide it into 3 sections. And then we will have the freeze at the bottom, and then fight or flight in the middle. And then at the top, we will have rest and digest. And here we are going to start from the bottom, just like I started in when I was going through each of the responses. We're going to start at the freeze, and when you look at them, we are going to look at them when they are out of balance. So, I was mentioning that they all have a function. Even when they are causing us pain, they still have a function, actually. But we are talking when they are too much, when we don't feel connected. So when we are not in this rest and digest state. And as you are looking at what they look like for you, notice how your sleep, relationship to food, and use of substances is affected in each of these states. So we're going to start at freeze, and I'm going to be inviting you to each of the states, and you can start already writing. If you have already something that is quite present, you can write it in there on your piece of paper. So starting in freeze, which is the immobilized state of hopelessness, I want you to think of a time when you felt this dorsal vagal sense of disconnection, a sense of collapse. Maybe there is not enough energy in your system, and you have no energy to care about the things that hurt you. There is no hope. It's a sense of hopelessness. And just imagine this for a moment, and I want to reflect on what does it feel like in your body, and what do you do there in that state, in that free state, and what do you feel? Maybe also what do you think and say? And for me, it would be something like being disconnected, indifferent, isolated, invisible, hopeless, uninterested. And Deb Dana writes about this state. I am far away in a dark and forbidding place. I make no sound. I am small and silent and barely breathing, alone when no one will ever find me. So take a few moments there, and in this box, this is to use a color. If there is a color that you associate with this state, you can use a marker or a colored pencil. And then I'm just going to be taking a couple of minutes in each as you can go back to this personal profile map, and you can keep adding things as you remember them or you experience them. So, next, moving into the fight or flight, which is the state of mobilization when we are in danger. So, just connecting to that state, maybe you want to close your eyes to feel into it and remember a time when you felt this mobilizing energy. And you might feel that there is a sense of too much energy flooding your system. There's a sense of unease, maybe a sense of being overwhelmed. You feel on the edge. There's so much flowing into your mind and body. And just start mapping this state by asking yourself, what does it feel like in your body? And what do you do there? What do you feel? What do you think and say? And for me, this sympathetic fight or flight energy would be excited, rushed, under pressure, chaos, overwhelmed, stressed, stimulated, ready, pulled, pulled in different directions. And Deb Dana says in her book on that state, fear is whispering to me, and I feel the power of its message. Move, take action, escape. No one can be trusted. No place is safe. And you can add there anything in relation to your sleep as well, food, substances, or anything that seems relevant. And then you can also place a color next to it whenever you feel that the color emerges for you. Just taking another moment in the fight or flight. Now, when you're ready, we will move to the last one, which is the rest and digest, the ventral vagal. And this is where we feel safe, social, connected. So just think of a time when you felt a sense that everything was okay, enough ease in your life, feeling safe, connected, and feeling good to be in this moment, right here, right now. Just letting that energy flow into your body and your mind. Feel it fully in your body, that feeling of connection and safety. And then start mapping it. What does it feel like in your body? What do you do there? What do you think, feel, say? And for me, in this state, there is a sense of spaciousness. I feel connected, a sense of flow, ease, trusting, creative, safe, inspired, freedom, just feeling a sense of ease in my body, lightness. And Debdana says about this state, what would it feel like to be safe and warm? Arms strong but gentle, snuggled close, joined by tears and laughter, free to share, to stay, to leave. And you can also put your color there if there is a color that emerges for this autonomic state. And then as you finish with your personal profile map, you can take a look at it and see what's there. And you can always go back to it later on and add new things as you learn more about your nervous states. So we're going to just pause here. So yeah, I just want to speak about that a little bit because we looked at the personal profile map, and that is what helps us to develop awareness and learn about our autonomic nervous pathways. So this is really the starting point, and really, if you want to work with the nervous system and understand it better, you can start tracking it, from today onwards. And just by being aware, tuning in, and you have written down the ways that you feel or what's happening. And really, if you want to work with the nervous system and understand it better, you can start tracking it, from today onwards. And just by being aware, tuning in, and you have written down the ways that you feel or what's happening within you in each of the states. And what you can do is be aware, try to be aware of what's happening moment by moment, and try to listen to your nervous system moment by moment. And you can use that language as well, which I think is what's quite helpful, is using the language of the nervous system regulation framework. And so what happens is that when we learn about these nervous states that we have, so we will recognize that maybe sometimes we get stuck in one of them or in another one. And what we can do is we can develop awareness of what helps us get out of these states. So for example, if I'm in freeze or in fight or flight, I I might, know that, oh, when I feel like this is what helps me. And this is what I would like to do in the next exercise, which is to create a resource list of regulating resources. So to have something that you can refer to when you are in a particular state. And this is what we call self-regulation or co-regulation. So you can regulate yourself, or you can regulate with another human being. Um, and I will talk about it briefly in a moment. But I do want to mention that sometimes we have certain patterns or certain behavior, habits, responses that are very strongly rooted. And this is what I was sharing earlier on, that they are often rooted in our childhood experiences, and we are so unaware of them that yes, we can regulate ourselves or co-regulate in the moment. And this is really helpful because this is gently helping us to shape our nervous system and to gently change the patterns. Now, what I found, and also through this training that I've been doing, and also all of my exploration of trauma and the nervous system, is that there are some patterns that are like just so strongly rooted that we do need to allow a lot of space for that, to understand what's happening, what is the root of it, or what is the origin of it. And it things like compassionate inquiry that I was mentioning at the beginning, that can be really, really helpful, because essentially it helps us to track our responses back to our childhood and understand that maybe the way that we are responding in this moment is we are not responding from the present moment. We are actually responding from a version of ourselves from the past. And this is quite a deep work, but just want to mention that, there is a way for us to self-regulate, co-regulate, and then sometimes, it will take some time. And obviously the self-regulation and co-regulation is welcome there all the time. And it's part of what this deeper process that I just mentioned. But sometimes I feel that, I might be in let's say in freeze, and I know what helps me get out of there. But then there is other times where that same thing will not get me out of there, because maybe is deeper. So this is where it needs a bit more time and space, being with and looking at, exploring. And this is how we can start our restoring, because when we are aware of where the responses come from, then we can decide if we want to act from this particular way of responding. Or to give you an example, I often, when I feel that I am not, I don't want to use the word performing, but let's say something isn't going well enough for me in my work. What happens is, what emerges is that I feel that I'm not good enough, and this is when I hide. So this is a sort of a freeze response. And when I'm aware of me doing that, and if I can track it back to my early years, I start realizing that actually this part of me that wants to hide is not in the present moment, but is the part of is the younger version of me. So it's something that is quite interesting, because we can start recognizing different parts of ourselves within ourselves. And that's just something I wanted to share with you, because this is something that I'm exploring a lot at the moment, and it's hugely linked to the nervous system, because all of our experiences are imprinted on our nervous system. So obviously, if something happened in the past, it will affect how we respond, and especially the early experiences. So I'm going to
I just have to say
okay.
bye, because I have
Yeah.
to go
Okay.
to
Yes.
put the
Thank you
baby
so
to
much,
bed. But
Ashleen. Yeah.
can I listen
Thank
back?
you.
Because I would love to do the second half of this.
Yeah, I will share with you the recording. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And thanks for everything.
Thank
It's lovely
you.
to see you again.
Nice to see you,
Bye.
Ashleen. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Um. Okay. Okay. So we're going to move into this exercise, and so it looks like a lot, but there is just a few things to look at here. Really, it's about how you can regulate yourself on your own and with others, and it's for each of the states. And we will start at the bottom again. So again, if you want to take a piece of paper and just divide it into well, 3 rows and 3 columns. No worries. Okay, she's gone. Do you want to do it, Elaine? I cannot hear you. Elaine?
Yeah, I just need to
Do you want to
turn
do
on
it?
the light because I'm sitting here in the
Okay.
dark.
Yeah.
Hold
No
on.
worries. Turn on the light. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's better.
Okay. So let's do it. I will still keep you muted, because what I do with this, I'm going to divide it into sections, and I'm going to use this on my website. Okay. Okay. So, okay. So we are going to look at the regulating resources map or list. So we'll look again at each of the states. So you can take your piece of paper and then just divide it into 3 rows and then 3 columns. So you have On the left, freeze, fight or flight, and rest and digest. And then your second column is things I can do on my own, and things I can do with others is the third column. And what we will be looking at is starting from freeze again. We will look at what moves you out of freeze, and then that's on your own, and also what you can do with others that will move you out of there. So, for example, for me, when I'm in freeze, what I can do on my own. So if I feel quite disconnected, indifferent, isolated, or hopeless, I sometimes notice that what moves me out of there is if I do something like a movement that will really increase my heart rate, like maybe cycling really fast, or doing something that will release adrenaline into my blood system. Also taking a cold shower, it can help as well. Dance, or with someone else, talking to a friend that I really trust and that can get me out of there. So obviously it's a specific person, or people that can help us to get out of that nervous state. So you can take a moment there to reflect and put it down. And again, this can be something you can go back to and keep adding as you're learning more about your nervous system. And if you're ready to move to fight or flight, it's the same thing. Just looking at what moves you out of there on your own and with others. And for me, that would be when I'm in fight or flight, in this mobilized energy. I like to be in nature, and maybe some time alone as well. Also changing scenery, so going somewhere else also helps, or walking, like gentle intuitive movement. And then with others would be similar, to talk to a friend, maybe do something fun with my partner, with a friend. And then the last one is the rest and digest. Is the questions are here: what helps me stay there on my own and with others? So obviously we don't want to get out of there. So the question is, what helps me stay there? And for me, it would be having space to self-reflect, things like yoga, just reading for pleasure, and just having lots of space. And with others, maybe doing some things that are just really chilling out together, no focus on the outcome, and also meeting new people. And this is something that, again, you can go back to and keep adding, and maybe have it on your fridge or somewhere where you can look at it, refer to at any point that you need. So just to add here about our nervous system seeking homeostasis, which is a sense of balance within our body. And it does so through a process called neuroception. So it's scanning the environment inside the body and outside the body. So we actually have this internal surveillance system. So this is also something interesting to mention, because even if we're not experiencing something on a conscious level, it is picked up by our nervous system through this process. And it might recognize signs of danger, or like a life-threatening. Well, maybe the situation isn't life-threatening, but it could consider something as life-threatening. So neuro means nervous system, and ception, aware. So the nervous system is always aware of these signs of safety and signals of danger. And that will also be based on our experiences, because, as I mentioned before, our early experiences are imprinted on our nervous system. So if something is imprinted there, if there is some sort of familiarity in our environment, our nervous system will maybe take it as a signal of danger, or a signal of life threat, even if it isn't. So, and then the neuroception of safety is in the world, into connection. So it's all about connection. When we are regulating ourselves or co-regulating, we are seeking this connection with ourselves and with others, with nature. So all of that is nurturing our nervous system. And then a neuroception of danger is in sympathetic fight or flight, and a life threat is into dorsal vagal collapse or shutdown, which we were discussing. And also, I already shared with you about co-regulation. So we are wired for connection. So we really have this need to connect with others. And this is something that can really help us to find safety within ourselves. And this is by connecting with others that are promoting that safety. So that's also what therapeutic work is about. So when there is that connection with a therapist, for example, there is what is happening is co-regulation. So there is space to feel safe, and we have the space to connect with our vulnerability as well. And this is a way that we can support ourselves as well, and nurture more safety within our bodies. And then just to kind of sum up, what is the polyvagal approach? So it's about, there are 4 steps let's call them steps. So it's about recognizing the autonomic state. So basically, these states have a function, and when we know the language, we can recognize them moment by moment. And the key is to respect the adaptive survival response, because all of these responses are there to protect us and help us survive. And the first step after recognizing the nervous state is to respect it and not try to get rid of it, because it's there to help us. So even if it doesn't seem like it's helping us, that's its function, that's what it's trying to do. And then the next thing would be to regulate or co-regulate. So maybe looking at the resource list that we created, and do something to regulate or co-regulate, to move into this state of connection, the ventral the state of rest and digest. And then the next thing is to restore. So this is where we can start looking at the patterns that we have, and start sort of looking at them, if even though they're functions to protect us, do they serve us still at this moment? Maybe they did in the past, but maybe they no longer serve us. So yeah, the restoring actually requires a lot of our attention, and also compassion and openness, as it is a slow process of recognizing who is in the driver seat. Is it the old version of ourselves, or is it me in the present moment? And by changing our behavior, or by regulating or co-regulating ourselves, we can start creating new pathways in our nervous system, and a new story for our life and how we respond to life. So that's the polyvagal approach. I just wanted to mention the 7-day journey towards befriending your nervous system, which would be just a way to dive deeper into this topic. And it will include daily check-ins and prompts, and some simple exercises for befriending the nervous system. And I will share more information in the email with the recording that I will be sending out tomorrow. And then also next month, we will look at exploring the inner seasons of the menstrual cycle in the learning circle, the Body Alchemy Learning Circle. So I will be sharing as well a link to that in the email with the recording. And then also there is a possibility to work with me one-to-one through the Body Alchemy individual program.